Hi guys, I'm back again to do another video. It's been a few weeks I think since I did my last one. I just don't seem to have much time at the moment. So anyway, I've picked up a few things recently, and some not so recently, just some things I forgot to show. Some second-hand, a couple of new things, and a book as well. So I'll start with the book. I was commenting on one of Jonas's videos because he had picked up that King Crimson album, a very lucky find, and I mentioned the RRPG, and he asked what it was, so I said I'd show it, and it is this. It's a record collector, which is basically a monthly magazine that gets released. Well, it's not monthly, it's every 4 weeks it comes out. So there's 13 issues a year. It's the only actual music magazine that I now buy every time it comes out. I used to buy a lot of things. I started off years and years ago buying Melody Maker, then it closed down, it shut up and kind of merged with the NME. So I bought NME for years, and Q and Uncut and loads of things. But then about probably not far off 20 years ago now, certainly 15, I discovered a Record Collector magazine, and it was about the same time that I started buying records, and I've bought it ever since, and it's by far, in my opinion anyway, the best music magazine. You can really kind of trust the reviews that are in it. It's not gone wrong yet, and it gives you a lot more information on the albums and things, and also gives you information on obviously older records and values, and different labels and collectors and all the kind of things that we're interested in. But then every 2 years they release one of these, which is the Rare Record Price Guide, or RRPG, and it's basically like a list of everything, every UK release, well, not everything, but virtually everything. I think singles need to be worth over £5, and albums, I think it's £10 to feature in this. It gives like the date of release, the year it was released, the label and catalogue number. Then it gives you, if it's an album, it tells you the title of the album. This is obviously Genesis I've opened this up on. So for an example here, first Genesis album released in '69 on the Decca label, from Genesis to Revelation. The mono version, it has mint value at being £1,000, and the stereo version at being 400. So it's quite handy to know if you find something, if you find the mono version, by having a quick flick through this, that it's going to be a lot more valuable than a stereo. It's not always completely right, but it's certainly a very good guide. And then it has this grading system at the back here, so something that's worth 500 quid in mint condition. If it's VG, it's probably worth half that, 250, or if it's worth 40 quid in mint condition, if you find one in excellent, you should be paying about 30 quid, 32 quid. So it's very handy, and it's very handy as well for looking up to find out what singles and things bands released, or what other albums and things. But obviously, because it's done on the value of the record, not everything features in this. So sometimes you might find something or hear about something and look up in this, and it's not in it, and that's probably because it's not worth very much. But it's a invaluable guide as far as I'm concerned. It's quite expensive, but well worth it if it's something that you're going to be using a lot. Yeah, so that's that. So we'll get onto the records. Something I picked up yesterday. Just came out yesterday, I think. The new Arcade Fire album. It's on a very shiny sleeve, like the single I bought when I bought the single the other week, thinking it was the album. I listened to this a couple of times through now, and it's good, but it's not as good as I kind of thought it was going to be. Their first album, Funeral, I really liked. It was good. You know, a new band comes on the scene, and you know, they had this kind of not different sound, but quite vibrant. I don't want to say ramshackle, but it was an interesting sound they had. Their first album was really good. Their second album I thought was much better. It's actually my favourite of their albums, Neon Bible. I think, you know, because they recorded it in the old church with the pipe organ, which really added something to it. Then their third album, Suburbs, again was pretty good. And there was a track on Suburbs called, I think it was the Sprawl Part 2, that went slightly electronic. It was kind of like the Belle and Sebastian, like their first album, if you listen to that. And it's all quite indie sounding. And then there's a song in it called Electronic Renaissance that goes quite electronic. And it was a similar sound with that song from the Suburbs. You know, the whole album was going, then all of a sudden this song jumped out at you. And this whole album sounds kind of like that song, but where in the context of the album that song jumped out, a whole album of it sounds doesn't seem to work so well to my ears anyway. It sounds overproduced. I like the kind of live element, or the more natural sounds of their first albums. But it's pretty good. There's if you told me when their first album comes out that they'd get Kid Koala in to do something, I would have been very surprised. But I noticed he gets name checked in the credits for this album. It's a good album, but it's not as good as I'd hoped. I don't know whether it's one of these ones where they were starting to maybe lose direction, and the Murphy, I think, the guy from LCD Sound System that has done the production, seems to have had maybe a bigger hand in it than was maybe necessary. But I don't know. It's still pretty good, but maybe it wasn't as good as I'd hoped. The other new thing that I bought recently was this, which is the new 7-inch picture disc for the most recent Bowie collections. This one was almost, well, not far off twice the price of the other ones. Most of them have been kind of $6 or $7.99, I think, when they came out, and that one was about $12.99. So I hope the rest of them aren't going to be that price. I don't know how many more there's going to be. but yeah, it's you know, that's the kind of price an album should be, not just a single. So pleased to have it, but they need to sort the pricing out on that, I think. I picked up this, which is a really knackered copy of Crosby, Stills and Nash. This is a fantastic album. This didn't cost me very much. I think, as much as Deja Vu is probably regarded as their best album, after listening to this, I actually prefer this one. It sounds really good. It's got a few scuffs and scrapes on it, but these old Atlantic pressings are pretty sturdy, so they can put up with a lot before they really start sounding bad. And I love this Plum Atlantic label. It's one of my favourites. So I have quite a few things on that, and if I'm going to buy something on Atlantic, I generally try and sort a Plum label one, and it still had the insert in it as well, which is nice. So I picked up that Crosby, Stills and Nash. It's great. Again, I also picked up this, which I'm slightly embarrassed to say that had been on my radar for ages, and I thought I'd like to hear that. Had never got a copy, never heard it. Well, to my knowledge, I'd never heard it. And then I started listening to it, got all the way through side one. Fantastic. And then put on side two, Inagada Davida, and instantly realised I had heard it, but the reason I hadn't put two and two together is because for years I thought he was singing In the Garden of Eden. So I felt a bit dumb when I suddenly realised what he was singing. So I had heard this, and obviously that track's total classic. So yeah, so that's my confession. So go easy on me, because I feel like a bit of a prat. Again, this is on the Plum Atlantic, and sounds great. Sounds really good. And I can highly recommend this to anyone that likes that kind of psych rock. It's a bit more poppy in places actually than I'd expect. Than I thought it was going to be. Certainly the first side. But yeah, really good album. I picked up this, The Occasional Word. Again, this didn't cost me very much. It's a bit knackered, but I didn't have anything on Dandelion label, which was John Peel's record label. They generally go for quite a bit of money, because I think it's one of those small labels, and the John Peel connection makes them quite desirable. And because, like I said, because it's a small label, I think a lot of people collect it, so they can try and get all of them. It's a great looking label. This is a kind of odd mixture of songs and skits, and there's some spoken word bits on it. It's a kind of strange mix. When it works really well, but unfortunately those bits that do work aren't too often. It's kind of bluesy folk, and like I said, when it works, it's really good. But those bits are few and far between. So on the whole, I was a bit disappointed with that, but it only cost me a couple of quid, so I'm not too worried. And finally, I picked up this, which is an album I've had on CD since it came out. It's Plone and their album For Beginner Piano, and this is on the Warp label, Warp 64. It's got a couple of nicks and things in the sleeve here. The disc is fine, plays really well. I don't know why I never bought this on vinyl when it came out. For some reason I ended up with the CDs, because this is exactly the time when I got into the Warp label, and was buying a whole load of stuff. But for some reason I got this one on CD instead of LP. I don't know whether I ordered the LP and the CD arrived instead, or what happened, but I finally have this. It's kind of well, in fact, I played some of it for Mark's, Dr. Deadwax's Lullaby contest that he had, and it sounds a bit like that kind of whole 8-bit generation computer game soundtrack kind of sounding music. Quite childlike in places, but good, a good listen. Yeah, I'm really pleased to finally have a copy of this. Got this off eBay for about a tenner, I think, so not a bad price either. And if you don't know Plone, I would definitely suggest tracking them down. Yeah, so that's it really. That's what I've been picking up recently. I'm struggling keeping up with watching some videos. I've watched a few recently. I've seen Jonas and John Coltrane 68's one about him digging in the storage bins, and a couple of Mark, Dr. Deadwax's, and a couple of Jonas's videos. But yeah, it's I have less time to sit and watch videos, so and comment as well. I'm finding I'm watching videos when I have time, and because I do it all on my iPhone, it's not easy to comment and reply to comments and things. So yeah, so that'll be it. I hope everybody's doing fine, and yeah, hopefully I'll be able to afford some more stuff again soon. Got obviously birthdays and Christmases and things coming up, so and obviously Black Friday will be quite soon as well, about a month away, so I've not heard anything about releases for that yet, but generally anything that gets released in the UK for that is pretty expensive, so it would need to be something that I wanted pretty badly. So yeah, take care, and I hope to hear your comments soon.